All set.
As the chair of the Winnacunnet, oh, are we ready?
We'll need to mute if, there we go. Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay. As the chair of the Winnacunnet School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to the executive order 2020-4, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone and addition access by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the Winnacunnet board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform. The public can access, contemporaneously listen, and if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following number: 646-876-9929, and the webinar ID number is 912-3929-9528, or by clicking on the website, and that is at us021.zoom.us/j/91239299528. Providing public notice of this meeting by accessing and contacting the SAU office at www.sau21.org. Providing a mechanism for this public to alert the public body during the meeting if there's a problem. Contact area 603-926-8992, extension 114, or emailing dtuite@sau21.org. Adjourning the meeting if public is unable to, in the event the public is unable to access this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned. Note, all votes will be taken and it shall be done by roll call. We'll now take a roll call.
Okay. Heidi Tarancina,
Present with family in and out.
Henry Marsh,
Present, family in and out.
Leslie LaFond,
Present alone.
and Tony Delano.
Present and family around.
Okay, roll call taken.
Thank you. Moving on, if everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation under God.
God, indivisible, with
Liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. Thank you. And we have Tyler with us tonight. Congratulations, Tyler. Just one more item. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. One, people have been asking in the SAU about the Winter Chronicles. Are those going to be going to the members of the
Yes. So,
Right.
we're only printing one print edition per trimester right now. So that's coming up in March. And when we print it, we will send it to you. Yes.
Okay, great. That's great. People want to know what's happening at Winnacunnet. A lot of exciting things happen.
Oh, yeah.
So, Tyler, you're on.
All right. So first of all, thank you so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak about what's going on at Winnacunnet from a student perspective. And I'd like to thank the teachers and administration for their hard work. We're continuing the successes that we've seen, the early successes with the hybrid return to school plan over the past few months. So thank you to them for that. I think overall, the message here is that hybrid learning has positively impacted students at Winnacunnet High School, and we've seen that. I'm not going to delve really deep into the statistics. That's what Mr. McGowan's here for. But just briefly, the latest survey that we sent out on hybrid learning garnered 33 responses. Around 3/4 of those respondents were in the hybrid model, 1/4 were in the virtual model, and about 75% of students across all learning models reported some kind of positive impact from hybrid, whether that was only positive impact or positive and negative impacts. And the other positive thing that I'm seeing here is only 12.3% of those survey respondents said that the in-person safety protocols were difficult to adhere to. And I think we're seeing that in the building, at least I am, seeing that students have been really, really receptive to the safety protocols, practicing social distancing and mask wearing, and that's been going a long way. Students are also enjoying the flexibility of the hybrid model, which affords them the ability to stay home if they at all feel sick or in doubt about going to school. I've seen multiple instances of that. It incentivizes students to stay safe and stay home if they have any symptoms at all. And in fact, some students like the hybrid plan so much that they started a petition online to keep it over the 5-day proposal. So students are really, really loving the hybrid model, at least the ones that the majority of those that I'm hearing from are really loving it. Aside from that, in terms of what the end of the year may look like, we're starting discussions on that with administration. In terms of end of year events, I would like to commend Mr. McGowan and the administration for actively engaging us in those types of conversations. We had a meeting yesterday with senior class officers about what end of year events may start to look like, and we're beginning preliminary planning for that. We're also being included in conversations with other student leadership and principals from around the state. So again, we thank Mr. McGowan for that. The senior class president, Colby Patelis, and I will be attending a meeting in March with principals from around the state. So I think that'll be a really insightful meeting. And thank you to Mr. McGowan for the invitation for that. And I also regularly speak to student council presidents from around the state, and many districts are in a similar place that we're at in terms of those conversations. So we're not alone. Nothing is concrete yet, but we're beginning those discussions. In terms of non-COVID related, in terms of wrapping up a little bit, we have course selection beginning. So the guidance department wants to make sure all our underclassmen log onto the portal and select their classes before vacation. And then to wrap up in kind of a fun way, sports, winter sports is going well. Alpine skiing had a girl qualify for Meet of Champions, and boys team finished 4th in the States. Wrestling is having a tournament Saturday morning, meet with Merrimack. Girls basketball won 2 of their last 3 games. Boys basketball has a 6-2 overall record, and they've won 5 in a row. And girls ice hockey, undefeated so far this year at 10-0. And swimming and diving is competing in a state tournament this weekend as well. So that's a little bit of a student look at what's going on at Winnacunnet right now. I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments from the board. Thank you.
Are there any board members who would like to ask a question of the representative? Any? That was a great report. I would say it's probably the best report we've had in 8 to 10 years. Thank you. Thank you. And if the board can be helpful, let us know as well. Any questions? Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
And we go to the minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes of January 20th.
Make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Okay. Any questions, anything? All those in favor? We need a roll call, I believe, on this.
Heidi Terracina,
Yes.
Henry Marsh,
Yes.
Leslie LaFond,
Yes.
and Tony Delano.
Yes.
Fantastic. Vote taken.
Thank you. Tyler, as always, if you'd like to be excused, feel free and just bow out.
I will, but thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thanks, Tyler.
thank you.
Thanks, Tyler.
Okay. Moving on to continuing business. Update on the in-person school plan. If you didn't receive it, Bill McGowan sent out an updated copy, reopening plan that you can download if you'd like. And again, Bill, if you would explain a little bit on that. I'm sure you have slides.
I do. I believe I can share my screen. I'm just waiting to have the screen share. Here we go. Oh, I'm not sure. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
We're fine, thank you.
Thank you. So today this evening I'll give an update on the reopening. And a lot of this information is based on the survey results that we sent out last week, and we're continuing to receive responses. The goal is to reopen to a full in-person model as quickly as possible, maintaining that we keep all students safe. So the goals were to go, fully in person. The goal is to have students in the building 5 days a week. We do realize that some students want to remain remote. But as Tyler mentioned, there is a number of students that would like to remain in the hybrid model. And even I received some responses from parents, why were we not asked to remain in the hybrid? So, the goal of the survey was to see what those numbers were, to see if we can come back in person safely. But based on some of the information, as some of the next steps, we may look to see how we can integrate the hybrid along with the in-person to make sure that students have the opportunity to return to school safely. So last Wednesday, we started receiving results last Thursday. We sent out a survey to all the students. Sent out a reminder over the weekend. And then yesterday, we sent out a reminder to just to those students that had yet to respond. As of earlier today, we had 820 students respond. Overall, 80% of those students responding, 656, said yes, they want to return in person. And then 20% said that they wanted to remain in the enriched virtual model. Throughout the receipt of the results, those numbers have remained pretty consistent. I do have guidance. We'll be taking a look to see how we can connect with those other remaining students that haven't. They do have a list of those students, and I'll be working with guidance to see if we can, what their choices are, so we can make a complete and full determination. You can see how it's broken down over the different grade levels. Our current seniors, 83% of those students want to return. That's followed by the freshmen, 82%. And then juniors and sophomores, less percentage of those students want to return. And again, the collection of this data was the first step in determining the number of students who would return full in person. This data will allow us to safely plan for a full return. Now, if the data indicates that we cannot implement it as we planned, we will continue with the hybrid model. So the hybrid model will remain in effect, and we've been successful with that until we can safely go to the full in person. Some of the decision points that we've based this on, students will still be spaced 6 feet in the classroom. And the number of students range from the different rooms and room sizes and configurations. We have 90 classrooms, and again, classrooms range from 8 to 24 students. The other thing that would impact us is how many students we could have in the lunchroom. Currently, we can accommodate 140 students per lunch, and that would require us to go from 3 lunches, which we are now, to 4 lunches, which we can do. So based on the results that we received, I'm going to take some time to go through this. This indicates the number of classrooms that we have that with the 6-foot spacing can accommodate 15 or more students. As I said, we have over 90 classrooms, but again, that size ranges from anywhere from 8 to 24. This slide just shows those rooms that can maintain or hold 15 or greater, so between 15 and the 24 students. Currently, if you take a look at block 1 here, 42 rooms are currently being used or scheduled for trimester 3 that have students in it. So these rooms can accommodate 15 or more students. 42 are currently being used. There are also 17 rooms that can accommodate 15 or more students that are not being used during block 1. Again, this is based on blocks, so the numbers change per block. Since some of the rooms accommodate less than 15, again, some accommodate 8 students, some can only accommodate 10. The number of classes that exceed the room capacity less than 15 students, in this case for block 1, we have 10 classes that the current room cannot accommodate those students. Since these rooms have a capacity less than 15, we know the students are less than 15, so with the 17 available, easy thing is to move these 10 students or 10 classes into one of these 17 rooms. What gets more difficult is that within these 42 rooms that are being used, those rooms are being exceeded by the number of students that would be returned based on the 80% number. For example, I have a room right now that has 23 students. The enrollment for trimester 3 is 23. 80% of those students would mean that if all those students came back, I would have 19 students coming back to that class. I cannot accommodate those 19 students in my current classroom. So there's limited room options to relocate these classes. And for example, block 1, I have 8 classes that based on the 80% of those students returning, and again, this is just strictly by the numbers, I would have difficulty in relocating those classrooms. If we go to block 2, there's 9 classrooms that we have difficulty in relocating. We would have to be very creative, and it could be a major disruption as we try to relocate these classrooms because we don't have existing classroom space that can accommodate those numbers, because based on the 80%, the class size would be too large. So some of the information I shared last week, we can probably accommodate 75%. And, you know, one goes from 75 to 80%. And on paper, it doesn't look like that big a number. But again, it goes from 42 classrooms that I indicated last week that we'd have to be able to move, up to, I'm not sure what the number, I think 57 classrooms currently at the 80%. And that means that I need to find per block anywhere from 18 to 20 classrooms that would need to be relocated. But the difficulty is those larger classes, those 8 to 9 to 10 classes each block that we don't have the actual classroom space. The other thing that we just need to realize is that with the current cohort model, students come to school 2 days a week, and then they're remote 2 days a week. Those 2 days between the cohorts provides a buffer that if we do have to do some contact tracing. It provides a buffer that based on the recommendations and the guidelines that we follow, we need to go back 48 hours. So it limits, it provides a limit or provides a buffer as far as in some cases, we don't have to go back that far, and those students we do not have to talk to and possibly self-quarantine. Without those 2 days, 5 days a week, could potentially increase the number of students that we would ask to quarantine based on if we do get a positive case. And as Tyler mentioned, the results of the current student or the student body, they're petitioning to remain hybrid. Our goal is to remain as flexible as possible. And right now we're at the point that we still need some further exploration. And, how do we, based on the feedback that we received, how do we also include a potential for a hybrid return with the full in-person return for those students that opt to remain in the hybrid learning? What we didn't realize until I spoke to some students and received some input is that many of the students that are in the hybrid model, they appreciate the hybrid model because they know and can see how many students are in the building. By going to the full in-person return, that's clearly going to increase the number of students. And a lot of these students have expressed to me that they may feel unsafe with the increased number of students. And these students, while they're currently in the building now, if we went to fully in-person, they may choose to go to remote. And then, oops. And we still need to have students commit for the trimester because once we get to that magic threshold of how many students we can accommodate in the building, it would be difficult to have more students come in. At the same time, it's always easier if a student decides to go remote, that we can accommodate a little bit easier. As we move forward with some of the data, we would want to explore what overflow spaces we may have in the building or different parts of the building that if we do have a class that it exceeds the room capacity, they may be able to go into another location within the building and be able to zoom into the class. It somewhat defeats the purpose of having the students in the building, but at the same time, it does allow us to fully move to that full in-person every day. And then I've already spoken to our facilities people. We will bring back the tents as the weather warms. We will have the outdoor classroom capability, so that provides additional options. We will remain as flexible throughout. And currently, we're working with individual students and families to make the best decision for them based on their need to return to school throughout the process. So we still have a little bit of work to do. I'm not saying that we can't do the in-person, but right now, based on some of the data, it would be difficult, but we'll finalize collecting that data, look at all possible options. And, the goal was to try to do something trimester 3. I'm not going to commit to that right now, but at the same time, I do know that once we can do the full in-person based on numbers, based on classroom space, doing everything safely, we would be able to pivot to that fairly easily and seamlessly as we move into trimester 3. That's all I have. So again, I just want to thank the students, the families, the school board, the SAU, and the teachers, because they've been flexible throughout this process. We could not have achieved what we have done without everybody working together And, again, I've got a lot of hope for the future. We're moving in the right direction. So I know we will be able to finish out this school year. Again, things have not been ideal, but I know everybody's doing the best that they can, and we are making progress. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for getting that out to us, to the board earlier today. Are there any questions? Tony, you must have a question.
Yeah. Thank you, Henry. Not a fully formulated question. Thank you, Mr. McGowan. A lot of information. I guess I'm not understanding why we can't commit at this point. I just would like more explanation. Is it a matter of, I guess I didn't understand if there's a possibility of having 25% of the students still be remote. If you could find volunteers or something to make it work. Maybe there's people who are kind of on the fence. Those are just my thoughts and questions on that.
No, and that's why, some of the numbers that we've got, so those are some of the next steps that we're going to take a look at and further explore is those students that want to stay hybrid. How do we integrate that into the fully in-person? Because on those days that those hybrid students stay hybrid, that would reduce the number of students. So it's just a little bit more data digging to find out. But, if I just look on the surface of the 80% of those returning right now in person, it's difficult for us to return. And I'm not saying we can't do it. We will be as creative as possible, but we just, and again, we have time. And the reason I sent the survey out last week was so we have time this week to present some information to you. And then we have a couple of weeks before trimester 3 even begins to get determine some of that information. And possibly if I need to send out some information, not that I want to survey students and parents again, but, see what those numbers look like. Okay, do I send out a survey that says, okay, in-person versus hybrid to get a better idea on that?
I have a question, Bill. Is there any way to look at, the larger classrooms that we have that, that say have the 23 or 24 in them, that it's too large? Is there a way to look at the kids that are in those classes and identify who's decided to stay remote and who's decided to go in so that we know how many were actually in those classes? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do. Now, again, that's why I'll be working with guidance this week to get those, we need everybody to respond. We have 200 and something students respond. So the next step is, okay, we know what these students are. We can pull up the class list for those students and actually find out which ones will be impacted, because there may be some classes that, some information I've heard from teachers that, when they ask the students, are you going to be returning in full? All the students in the class say they would be. By just taking an 80% cut down the middle, gives us some information, but we do know there may be some classes that if all those students return, that would clearly be a problem. But now that we have, I know all the students that have responded, I know which students want to come in person, so we can now start pulling the additional data from the Power School database to find out what classes would be impacted.
Okay. That seems to me to be the next logical thing, because you're right. If it's almost like it'd be a non-issue if when you look at it and we could take 80%, if that 80% was spread out over the different classes. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Heidi, is there something?
Yeah, sure. I have a few. Anyway, thanks so much for putting this together. I wasn't sure what to expect tonight, and you have obviously done a lot of work, and it's really appreciated. And from my son's perspective and my perspective, the teachers have done an incredible job jumping into the hybrid and just making it work. It's been very impressive from my standpoint. So My question is, so I have several that I've written here, but I think it really just sounds to me like right now we're kind of in pause, waiting to hear from those approximately 200 students. But do we have any idea what percentage of students are petitioning to stay hybrid?
Looked online, which was earlier this morning, the online petition, I believe there were close to 100 students that responded. And again, when I met with this senior class officers yesterday, I said, do you know who's sending this out? Because I need to talk to them. It's something that I want to talk to them, not from a negative standpoint, but this is a very valuable information that one, we can use as we move forward, and also valuable information to the school board and the community as far as what the students actually think, because the number of responses for the survey that I sent out, 85% of those respondents are the parents. The parents are responding. In some cases, as I go through the data, there's some cases where the parent says one thing and the student says the other thing, but overall, it's the parents are responding. So in this student petition, the students are directly responding. So if the student is out there watching this, please come see me. You're not in trouble. The information that you have is very valuable as we plan to move ahead. Again, Winnacunnet High School is your school, so you need to let me know what's working and what's not.
So much. So, and I do have just one other question, and wondering if this might help families with their decision-making process. So obviously the risk of COVID goes up if we go to 5 days a week. So my question is currently, and I appreciate the weekly updates that you give us, but I am curious if you're able to share with us, there are obviously students and teachers who've had to quarantine. Are those cases because it's been something, let's say from the lunchroom, a classroom, athletics? Is there any guidance you could share with us on that?
I'm not sure. I'm going to let Dr. Eric Halian jump in on this, but some of this is completely out of school related, that a student contracts the student outside of school tests positive, they're with friends over the weekend or something like that. That's where a lot of the cases come from. As far as, even in the building, there has been no student to student or student to teacher transmission as of right now that has everything has been outside. Even the numbers that people quarantine, it may be that they came in contact with somebody outside of school. So my goal, not to scare people or anything like that, or not to limit that knowledge. I think last week we had 8 or 9 students that were isolated because they either had the symptoms or had tested positive, but most of those were outside of school that we find out. And then the quarantine, maybe, contact with those students outside of school and or something outside of school. And again, we do follow the guidelines as far as from the CDC, is that, we go back 48 hours and then the whole spacing and for longer than 10 minutes. So we've been following that. And then as far as contacting, people, it's based on the HIPAA and FERPA that we only contact those students or staff that are directly impacted within that circle, the 6 foot, 10 foot and things like that. And if we need to, we'll err on the side of caution and, ask the students to exclude themselves or the families to exclude the students.
I can add to that it's difficult because we try to strike the balance. We want to share. We know that people are interested in the information, and people can be concerned. And you want to ask your children, your students, where were you? Were you near this person? And then I know that some parents have asked us, approached us and said, well, if I knew more, then we could decide whether to quarantine or not. But we want to share as much as we possibly can without identifying people. And sometimes that means we have to be kind of vague. And like Mr. McGowan said, particularly if it was something outside of school, because then that really is identifying. So if it's something outside of school, we hear about it, the student comes in and their symptoms, or they get tested and they let us know. We do our contact tracing from the school's perspective. So we might say we have a student who has a positive case or a positive test result, and the nurses and the principals in all of our districts, they move forward with the contact tracing. Anyone within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes in the past 48 hours. So sometimes we can share if it's a team or a grade level or a group, but more times than not, it's an individual, and that's all we can share.
Thanks. I really do think that's so helpful for families to realize that the quarantining and isolation and things that have happened have been outside of school and not from within the school. I think there are just questions wondering if it came from the lunchroom, where did it happen? And so I think understanding that is definitely helpful. So thank you.
I'm going to go around one more time here. Just questions on Bill on this before we move on. Leslie, do you have a question for Bill? Okay, thank you. Tony? Nothing, thank you. Heidi? Gonna miss you. Okay. Heidi, you give us so much input. I want to thank you for all of that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And
Thank
I think you'll be left in great shoes, and it's time to pass the baton, I guess.
Okay.
So, yeah, thanks.
No, please, no tears. Okay. Moving on, we have the permanent superintendent search update. Mr. Hobbs, please.
Thanks, sure. And Tony, feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything. Admittedly, I think a little tension between the committee wanting to move quickly, getting this job posted, wanting to start vetting applicants and all that, that natural anxiety, and of course, the consultant who wants to follow the process. So we're playing that tension out right now, but I think long term we'll be able to hit our timelines just fine. We are looking at getting a job description out this Thursday by end of day. That's the vote we took at our last meeting, and that means we can post this week before break. I think it's important to get it out before New Hampshire vacation. We are, after vacation, starting to schedule focus groups. Three big groups. One is community/parents. The other one's students, and of course faculty. We want to start engaging them verbally, but we also want to put together some digital surveys for those groups. So that's coming shortly after break. And we're also making sure that we loop Hampton proper in, meaning SAU 90, and making sure that they have a voice. We've talked to the consultant, and he feels like we're on track. Even though I've got some anxieties about making sure this thing gets moving quickly, we've been assured that we're doing well. Tony, anything that I'm missing?
I think you nailed it. I had the same concerns about schedule right from the beginning, because I felt like, the consultant is extremely thorough. There's so much information. I feel like it's just so much to get through, and we're all, as you said, Dr. Hobbs, we're very eager to see candidates. Get that job description out, get some resumes in, get the interest. I think that'll be a turning point. We just have so much stuff on what we want to see in the superintendent. It needs to be boiled down to roles and responsibilities, and I think we're in that data collection phase. It has to be boiled down into something that's actionable. So I think I agree we're going to get there. It's just we're in that early brainstorming phase.
I'm not really sure. How's this one for?
Any questions for the committee?
I have one. Is the committee thinking of presenting only one candidate? In the past, we've had 3 candidates presented to the joint board as opposed to one particular candidate. Is there any speak of that?
I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility, Henry. However, I think it completely depends on the candidates that we'll have to kind of adhere to the process, and we'll have to kind of evolve as our candidates come in and as the vetting process happens.
No, I understand that. I think you know what I'm talking about. Not just what just occurred, but with the previous superintendent, we were given one candidate and for the permanent position, and it was sort of a take it or leave it type of thing. So that's where my question is coming, having worked with many superintendents, and again, just wondered if that was a possibility.
Yeah. So
Only one person. So
one thing I'll add is early April, mid-April on the timesheet that they gave us, there is a finalist process, they call it, which includes community meet and greet and that kind of thing. I'm assuming that would be a time where you have a distilled number of candidates where you'd really be able to get to know them well and be able to talk through kind of the selection process publicly.
okay, thank you, David.
Yep.
Tony, thank you for your time. Guy, thank you. Can I toss in something here? Tony and I mentioned it the other evening, and I'm just throwing this out, that for some of the students that, is there any possibility for a 5th year for students coming up? Is this part of a thought process? If not, could it be? Because so many kids have been put into a dilemma here. And just as a thought, I don't know if Tony, you want to expand on that?
Sure. I've obviously talked to some parents. I've got 2 kids in the school. The thought is, and there's data out there. I'm not an educator, but I've heard information that kids are 7, 8, 9 months behind. Kids haven't been in school. I actually would like to see data would establish, are we behind, or how far are we behind where we should have been, and how does that compare? And I think it's not just the academic piece, but it's also the social piece. I've got a senior, he's been in school very little. That's going to be repeated over and over again with many kids. So there's a number of reasons that you only get your senior year once. If there's any way at all, I have no idea. But if it's possible to give kids a chance to redo some work, or take more things they didn't get a chance. For example, some of the classes, my son took a woodworking class, never put his hands on a piece of equipment in woodworking too. So I don't know, and there's chemistry labs, there's stuff like that that stuff has just been missed completely. We all know it, we're all dealing with it. So putting all that stuff together, it makes me wonder. Maybe some kids want to just move on anyway, but maybe there's some that it's the right choice for them for a whole variety of reasons. So we just discussed that briefly, but those are my thoughts on that.
Okay. If I can go back again, this would be a postgraduate year. And obviously, many of the prep schools have that in the Class A preps, that there is a postgraduate year. And I relayed to Tony, when I was at Winnacunnet, it was available because I took part in it. And it was beneficial for me. And there was only 2 of us in this program. And we got to, this is not for athletics, it's more academic. And again, it's just something that we feel that could be offered to students. They may not come the whole year or half a year or, the full day. Again, it's the kids are missing something. We all know that. And again, we're just throwing out, Winnacunnet is that school, one of the top in the nation, and we should be a leader in promoting education for students. And again, this is just a thought. It's not something for a vote tonight or maybe at no other time, but it's just a thought that for the board. And I want to thank you for your time to listen to me and to Tony. We are looking at now the policies. It'd be the first read, and there's Leslie.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, but I believe we've already started talking about doing some stuff this summer for making up classes and things like that. I think that's already in the works, isn't it, Bill?
Yes, it is. We're taking a look right now to see how we can increase the summer programming. So it's not just a recovery or failure thing, but for people to gain back up to get ahead. We're also looking to see what we can do trimester 3, especially for those seniors that need to make sure they complete things in order to graduate. So, we're clearly aware that there's going to be curriculum gaps. And this goes from the incoming freshmen that are coming in. So we'll be working with the middle school teachers, some vertical teaming to see where those gaps are. And we're working within the high school as far as how do we address those curriculum gaps and, skills that students may have missed because clearly we have not been able to cover what we would have in a normal year. So this is something that we can definitely discuss further. I'll bring back to my admin team. I'll work with the SAU to see what, a possible postgraduate year would look like. But right now we do have plans in place or are planning to do something for trimester 3, especially for the seniors, and then what we can do over the summer. To kind of give you a prelude to what we're thinking, I mean, this pandemic has created a lot of challenges, but it has provided opportunities for us to take a look to see how we do things. Clearly for me to do something in the fall is too short, but we're going to be using next year to review our schedule, to review what's the best, how can we use this pandemic to improve what Winnacunnet offers and use this as a starting point to move ahead. So that's, there's a lot of things that are going to be coming forward next year, working with the community and parents to see how we can transform Winnacunnet based on what we've seen occur in this pandemic to better serve the students.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. The policies, it's a first read. We don't have to vote on that. Is that correct, Dr. Killian?
That's correct. We did just skip over finance. I didn't know if you wanted to mention that first, even though Mr. Ferrer's not here.
Is there any question on finance? Looking at reviewing it, it looked like we were in good stead.
Okay. Yes.
Still have some money.
You're fine. You're fine.
No, Matthew does a great job and a well-deserved vacation after all the budget hearings and so forth. And thank you. And we have, next item would be public comment. Do we have anyone in the queue for public comment?
There is a hand up, or 2 hands up. So let me go to So anyone wishing to make a public comment, please obviously raise your hand. I'm using the Zoom feature. Once we see your hand raised, I will turn on your microphone and you will need to state your name, your address, and your affiliation with the school. Okay, so I'm going to go to PCD and allow to talk. So PC, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, my name is Pete DiStefano, 19 Woodman Road, Southampton, New Hampshire. I'm not a district voter, so I'll be brief, and it sounds like you guys have a lot of other pressing current issues, but I really wanted to say thank you to Leslie, Henry, Heidi, and Tony. I think this is going to be their last board meeting together. It meant a lot voting all yay with the Southampton Winnacunnet school contract. And I know in this family, we're extremely excited to put on the red, white, and blue in the fall of 2022. So I wanted to sprinkle some thank you on a hard year. And I know personally, we won't forget this, and we're excited to help out the boosters and alumni and et cetera. So I just want to thank you guys and thank you for your service, and go Warriors.
Thanks, Pete.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Again, thank you.
Okay, and the next one, Andrew Wallace. Hold on 1 second, please. So there we go. Andrew, unmute yourself.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Wallace. I'm the president of Seacoast Education Association. I appreciate the chance to address the board tonight, and thank you for your work on behalf of students and teachers in SAU 21. Our teachers, staff, administrators, students, and families have all been working so hard and continue to display such dedication and fortitude over these past months in such difficult circumstances. Thank you all for your hours and hours of preparation and work that you put into your teaching and your parenting to make this in-person hybrid schedule and this school year the best it can be. We teachers will continue to do what's needed to support our students in their academic and emotional needs. And as always, we need to continue to focus on how to do that in a safe environment. The current hybrid model has allowed our students to attend classes on a consistent and reliable basis, and the results have received high marks. The 2-day buffer in the schedule has also saved us from having to exclude students or to close classrooms due to the dozens of exposures and/or COVID cases that our students have endured in the past few months. As we've recently seen in SAU 21 and nearby districts, it's even possible that the whole school may have to be closed as a result of these cases. Keep in mind, the state does not post numbers of cases for students who are not in the school building at the time, obviously. There are no easy answers in planning our return to school at any stage. In creating the next version of the in-person model, there will be challenges in navigating spacing constraints in the building, keeping in student staff safe and healthy, continuing to maintain our safety protocols and health screenings, supporting our students who are learning at home, very important, how to move classrooms and needed class resources if necessary, and creating a schedule where students and teachers can be most effective in their work. Despite the exciting news of lower new case counts in New Hampshire during the cold winter months, reported cases of a more potent and transmissible COVID variant strain in New Hampshire is concerning for everyone. Mind you, with our current numbers, the CDC categorizes Hampton still as a red zone where transmission rate is high. So our safety protocols remain as important as ever in the coming months. When we discuss safety in New Hampshire schools, we have to mention again that teachers and staff need to be prioritized in getting vaccinated. There is currently no accurate timeline of when this will happen. Teachers are definitely doing their job and they're doing it well. Let's make sure that the state is working to make these vaccines available as soon as possible. We all understand that our adherence to safety protocols in the community will affect the number of infections in schools and potentially put our populations at risk and close our schools. We all have a role to play in keeping our students and teachers safe. Increasing in-person learning at Winnacunnet depends on the commitment to safety in our community. We mean it when we say we're all in this together. Despite the challenges of this year, we all want to see our students flourish, and we're excited that that is beginning. Keep in mind the teachers and staff don't make the plans, but regardless of what's planned, we're committed to providing meaningful learning and social opportunities for students. We remain, as always, in awe of the resilience that our schools and community have continually displayed together this school year, and we look forward to our continued success. Thank you all for your efforts, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, and I think that's it.
Okay. Okay. The next,
Believe, oh, sorry. You had one more hand up.
Okay, that's a new one. Thank you. Jennifer? There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Waddell. I live at 33 Viano Island, Northampton, New Hampshire. To be honest with you, I'm actually disappointed in what I heard today, the plan that was proposed. You know, last month when Mr. McGowan went through it, it very much seemed like we were gunning for this try-3 as an opportunity to be in person. And also with the survey that went out, I think a lot of parents are under the impression that it is happening. And what I don't really understand is the obstacles, while real that you call out, they existed last month. So what I'm trying to understand is it seems again like the path of least resistance. Like, are we really being creative enough? And I'm not seeing that. And it's honestly reminiscent of the fall where you would sit on one of these board meetings. We'd be sort of not promised, but you get this indication that we're going to move forward or we would make progress. And then the next month you'd come and it would be pulled back. And it was more and more excuses, more and more focus on the smaller minority. And while I respect that 100 kids want to be hybrid and there's a petition, there was a petition months ago with 1,000 kids saying they wanted to go to school. You have 80% that want to go to school. Like, why are we not like focusing on making that happen? You know, across the country, if you're watching the news, absolutely COVID does not spread in schools. It happens outside of schools. Kids need to be in schools. They're suffering. And I would hope as educators and as a community, we would make that happen. And so I asked this board to push on Mr. McGowan and the Winnacunnet staff and to make this happen, to make them figure out a plan that is going to work for the opening of trimester 3, whatever they want that plan to be, whether they now decide they're also going to add hybrid as a third option, but make it happen. Time is of the essence. If you don't do that, there's no date laid out. We're going to sit here next month and just spin again in a circle. And again, I am highly disappointed. We are not acting student first at all. Again, we're finding excuses. We're going to the minority. 80% want to be in school. We're talking about a 5th year. We wouldn't need a 5th year if we had the kids in schools. Or if you talk about what's happening with the seniors, then at least get the seniors back. But I ask you, board, to put on the table tonight to make them commit to having a plan in place for the beginning of trimester 3. Thank you. And I do hope that other parents on this call speak up. I'm on a text now, about 30 of them. If we don't speak up, I know we're not going to get action. So I please encourage others on the phone who are listening tonight to please do it, because I know there's many of you. Thank you.
All right, Marcia Roby. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for taking my question. I have 2 questions, actually. I'll ask them and then take the answers. The first one is, for the kids who choose to stay remote, is there a way to improve the microphones in the room, in the classroom, so that they can hear what the other students are asking the questions and saying versus just hearing the instructor? That's been a problem for my kids in this trimester. And then for the, if our kids go back, I'm curious, I understand the classroom protocol, and I apologize if you talked about this early in the meeting, I couldn't get on, but how are you going to handle the cafeteria load when, say, you have the entire freshman class or 80% of the freshman class in there eating lunch at the same time? Is there enough capacity for that? Just curious. I know the juniors and seniors can leave for lunch if they want to, but that the freshmen and sophomore have to stay within the building.
Okay.
They're great questions. Are we able to comment on those at all, or?
Bill, would you like to comment on the last one about the cafeteria? And I know that you've answered the question on for for the first person on the, on your proposal. The question was on the cafeteria, whether that's, she probably missed that you would be having 4 lunches.
That's correct.
Okay, so Lynn. Lynn, I'm gonna promote you to panelist because you're on an older version.
Hi, my name is Lynn Rademacher. I live at 18 Falcone Circle in Hampton. I had a 2017 and 2020 graduate of Winnacunnet. I currently have a junior and potentially one more to follow, but I am quite disappointed in Winnacunnet. I echo everything that Jen Waddell said. I do urge the board to remember that you represent your constituents who are overwhelmingly asking you to get the kids back in school. We are tired of you catering to the minority. We are tired of listening to the scare tactics. There is a way to do this. It's time to think outside the box. It's time to pull out all the stops, figure out what resources we have, and make it happen. Anybody who's going to make decisions first by children would be doing that. And the fact that we have adults standing by letting this happen, we are complicit in something really disturbing. Again, the board, you represent those of us who elected you. The time is now, time is of the essence. This is urgent. The kids need to get back in school. We need to figure it out. No more fear mongering. We can do this. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments or? All right, I don't see any other hands up.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Pardon?
There was a hand, but it went down. Okay.
Well, thank you. School district voting day is Tuesday, March 9th. And Dr. Akilin, can you go over the voting areas in the communities? Do you have them? I will tell you the Northampton School is one of the voting places.
That's right. Northampton, Lincoln Ackerman. I don't have the list right in front of me.
Okay. Bill, there's a voting, Hampton voting, is that at Winnacunnet?
Hampton voting is at Winnacunnet, yes.
Thank you. Hampton Falls, again, Lincoln Ackerman, Seabrook, that sometimes changes,
Right.
whether it's at the rec center or at one of the elementary schools there in Seabrook. But again, we can get back to people on the voting locations that will be posted. Okay. The next meeting is March 17th. And
that's right. That's our next meeting, the reorganization meeting, the night, and that's the night before Tri-3 begins.
correct. Okay, thank you.
We also have the joint board meeting. And the other thing, Mr. Marsh, I think we wanted to bring to the board that we need to invite a board member to sit on the SST board, as Mr. Rabideau was the Winnacunnet representative.
And we can't wait until the 17th?
We would have another meeting without a board member present. There was a meeting in February that I attended, but we did not have a board member present.
Okay, I'll attend that. That way we don't have to go through a whole voting process.
Okay.
Okay. So again, March 17th is our next board meeting. Heidi, do we have an adjournment?
Henry, can I just say thank you to the board and This may be my last meeting. It may not, but if it is, I just want to say thank you to my fellow board members, and thank you for the communities. And it has been truly an honor. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor to have you on board as the vice chair and also the vice chair of the SAU. Thank you for all your time. Thank you. Heidi, can I have a adjournment?
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call.
Okay. Heidi Tarancina,
Yes.
Henry Marsh,
Yes.
Leslie LaFond,
Yes.
and Tony Delano.
Yes.
Vote taken.
Thank you. The meeting is adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you.